Welcome to my spooky, scary story. And I wanted to bring you and tell you the tale of when I spent the night at Sloan's Lake. If you haven't seen my first two videos about Sloan's Lake, please watch those first. I gave the history of Sloan's Lake, and then I told the story about the life of Clara Williams, who wanted to be an Indian princess. That's my second video of Sloan's Lake. This is the third installment of my series. I wanted to tell a story with my snake. She's 15 years old. She's a ball python. She's about 5 feet long. Her name is Perseus. She's a very good snake. It's very sweet. Ball pythons are a good advanced snake if you like one. They are a little exotic. Sometimes they won't eat, but basically you just have to keep their temperature and humidity nice and not too warm, not too cold. And they'll eat and they drink, and they're just really cool animals. The hardest thing about it is you have to feed them rats. But I thought I would tell my story with my snake. And this gets her nice and warm and cleaned her cage. Come with us and tell this story. I'm going to give you some hindsight about this story. I have come across spiritual beings my whole life. Ghosts, shadow forms, shadow people, phantoms, such as that. It's a natural thing for me because I'm an empath, a psychic medium. I'm just me, though. I don't really like to label myself. I'm just very sensitive to the energies around me. Sometimes I can go to a place and really feel the energies that are around. Sometimes depending on the situation, this is a story many moons ago. I had begun to study meditation and looking into the unknown at about 12 years old, because I had matured enough to realize that I wanted to know about the unknown. I'm a very curious person. I want to know. I want to know about everything. That's why I'm on a journalism journey through YouTube, and I love research. I love history, and I had begun going to the library and studying meditation and protection through earth energy, universal energy, that kind of natural beliefs. I'm just studying all kinds of religions and holistic adventures and just figuring it out. It was early spring of 1991. At the time, I was spending some days at a house my family lived in, and in my car. First, I had my 1974 Chevy truck, the 2-inch lift, big tires. I loved that truck, jumping curbs and sleeping in it at horse shows. But alas, the tranny went out. And then I got a Buick Skylark. Well, one dark, quiet night, I was driving home late. Not much was happening. I had gone to work at a telemarketing job. I got off at around 9 o'clock. I had to go back the next day. I didn't want to go home. I often spent 2 to 4 nights in my car, depending on the night or the week. I will do a story time later on in my video series, all about my adventures living in my car. Very different than people do now. I had blankets, pillows, bags, and necessities on my floorboards and trunk. Sometimes I slept in the front seat or back, depending on how safe I felt in the area that I parked. No one would be home in the morning and I could sneak into the house. Soon there would be no house, but at this time we still had a home nearby. I decided to read a book with my flashlight till I got sleepy. I could pass out. Do I remember the book? It was probably a classic, Gone with the Wind, and then Scarlet, the sequel. At that moment, I thought it would be fun to sleep by the lake. In 1991, Denver wasn't as busy as it is now. It wasn't a hub of people, more of a sleepy western town. I turned and saw how dark and quiet the lake looked. There was no one around. A residential neighborhood lay to the left, Sloan's Lake to the right. No signs. I found a dark spot with some trees as a bit of cover and turned off the car. I sat in silence for a few minutes as I contemplated about what I needed to do. I remember a lone jogger running by. Once in a while, a lone car would drive by. For the most part, it was very quiet. I would get ready to go to sleep. I had a bit of a routine depending on the night. I took off my makeup if I wore any, changed into simple pajamas, get a blanket and pillow, and sometimes I wrote in my journal. Of course, there was no computer, there was no cell phone. I put everything away, got out clothes for the next day, used lotion, brushed my teeth, and fixed my bed. I laid in the back of my car so I could cover up and it would look like no one was in the back seat. I fell asleep with my book on my chest. And as I was reading, it was quiet and still. All I could hear was the lake lapping against the banks. I do remember like a cry from a fox they make, the little barks they make calling to one another. I remember that. I remember hearing the fish jumping because as I was walking around the lake to make this video, I heard those same noises. I remember hearing those. A few times I would stop and I would look around and I would look through the windows and I would just listen to see if there's anyone lurking, sneaking, anything of that nature. But there was nobody around. I had thought that I had found a really cool place to sleep. A quiet, dark, silent place by a lake, around nature, but close enough to residential that I would be safe. I thought I had found a really cool place to spend the night. I had had a couple feelings of fear, hearing a weird noise that gave me chills, but often I'd feel that in my car, getting ready to sleep in a dark, crazy place out in the middle of nowhere. But nothing could possibly happen here, right? There was a couple seconds of dread. I did have a few thoughts that maybe I should go home, but I didn't. I wanted to stick it out. I'm not a fraidy cat. I couldn't be afraid. Nothing would happen to me, right? I had been asleep for about 5 hours. I was sleeping well, until against my sleeping eyes, I could see that something shifted the darkness. I wasn't under a street light. It was dark. This kept happening. I knew there was motion, but I was asleep. So was I dreaming? I may have heard a car go by, and for a few minutes there was silence until I wanted to wake up, but I couldn't. I could barely open my eyes. I thought, I'm so tired, I can't open them. I breathed, and I was glad I could. I fell back to sleep, but not for long, because something brushed against my car. I opened my eyes slightly. I saw a shadow looking into my car, and instantly my heart flipped and beat hard against my chest. Then another shadow, another black form against the car. I looked at the front seats, and there were shadows moving all around the car. The car moved slightly. I wanted to say, "Hey, get away from my car!" I couldn't speak. I could move my eyes. I couldn't move my body. I couldn't turn my head. I tried, and I tried. Tears began to spring from my eyes. I was moving my body on the inside, but my body couldn't move. It was slightly painful. What was happening to me, I wondered? Who was out there? Or what? Then the shadows began to speak. First garbled whispering, sounding like a snowy TV channel. Like back in the good old days when you had the old-fashioned square TV on the floor, and you turn it to channel 2 or 3, and it would just be snow and a crackling sound. But that was in my head, all around me. First soft and louder to hurt my ears, and I began to hear words. First in between, take her. Rip, tear, suffocate. Limb from limb, pull her apart, drown, and pictures of what they wanted to do to me. I continued not to be able to move. I lay there breathing, gasping, and tried to cry out. Why? What do you want? Go away, leave me alone. Oh, they were the dark shadows, or shadow people. They know that I can hear and see them. So I began to ask for help. Please help me. I am not afraid. In between the horrible nightmare, I envisioned me in a bright, colorful light. What the light told me to do, by way of pushing them away. I asked them to leave me alone. I am strong, courageous, and brave. I am not afraid. I have no fear. Leave me alone. You have no hold over me. My angels and guides protect me. The light of God in heaven, earth, and the universe protects me. I said this over and over again. As I saw they wanted to slash me to pieces and do many unkind things to my body, but I kept talking in my head, mind you, for a while. I prayed, thinking of everything good, happy, passion, love, gentle yet strong, courageous and brave. Went into the second hour. I felt them begin to lift off of me. Then I spoke out. I told them, I am protected. I told them they could never hurt me. Go back to the Shadowlands where you belong. Until I could feel my legs and arms lighten. The heaviness in the air was easier to breathe. The voices and screams stopped slowly, and I breathed a huge sigh of relief. I calmed my breathing, closed my eyes. and fell back to sleep due to exhaustion over and over and over again. The first peaks of light came over the world. I awoke and laid there a few minutes to listen, feel, and see. I heard a few cars go by. I thought over what I remembered. Possibly someone walking by, the tag of their dog, jingling. I waited till all was quiet. I sat up slowly, looking round to stare towards the lake, shiny with daylight, like nothing ever happened. But I remembered distinctly. I also felt relieved and strong, empowered. Why? No more fear. They wanted my fear, but I wasn't scared of them. I was afraid they were people, but it doesn't matter. No fear. Well, I'm not going to park there again. I knew that. I had known Sloan's Lake had a bad reputation for bodies in the water. Not a great neighborhood. But I had slept downtown, in the mountains, in parks, parking lots, and had had some weird situations. But each time I learned more and more about where to go and where to park, and where I could sleep. My life has always been full of many lessons. I did long to know more. I had a feeling that some of the pictures they had shown me were what had happened to them. Lost souls full of darkness, doom and gloom. From every situation, I tend to learn a lesson. I believed that the lesson learned from this night, I had gone through my own doom and gloom. I had gone through some negative feelings at the time, unsure of what I wanted to do with my life and unsure what was going to happen to me. But from that moment, I didn't want to have any negative thoughts or feelings anymore. And if I did, then I would feel those feelings and I would let them go, and I would always bring in positive thoughts and continue to think positive about what was going to happen in my life, because everything that I was going through was a lesson to be learned to get me to the next point in my life. And it has. And that's why this story has always been very important to me to remember. I got up and folded my blankets, crawled into the front seat, changed my clothes, fixed my face, washed my hands, and then I grabbed out 2 incense out of the pack. And yes, I always had incense and candles. I stepped out of the car and went for a walk. I lit the incense and walked each way, first left, then right of the car, for about 20 minutes each way, cleansing and blessing at least that part of the lake. At the time, I only knew to ask for all that negativity to go back to where they came from, to move on and have my angels help. I asked for the lake waters to be blessed by the Great Spirit and all the animal totems. I didn't know the history of the time, that Sloan's Lake wasn't a lake at all, but a shallow aquifer. That as the legend goes, people were buried on the land and the lake covered the graves. Were they trying to talk to me? Were they just lost people set to roam around the lake? trying to find themselves. I didn't know, but all I could do was tell the spirits of the lake, we hear you, we see you. Go into the light. You will be met by your ancestors. They are waiting for you. But I think I'll go back with a little sage and speak again to the lake on the northeastern shore. This is one of my many stories to come. Everything that has happened in my past has been a message to learn. It's all been fun, a little scary, a little spooky, but lots of adventures and journeys, and I like adventures. That's why I've had fun with my YouTube and just bringing you stories and going to tell other people's stories and to write down our adventures or make a video of them so that nobody forgets our stories. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked my video. Please like, subscribe, and share. It helps me on my journalism journey. And we are all rock stars. Anyway, I want to be a rock star of sorts. And I don't mean just the rock and roll singers. I mean, I love rocks. I love stars. I want to be a rock star. I want to be just a little extraordinary. We all have a story. Let's make sure that we share our stories so that our families will remember, our friends. If some people don't want to be remembered, and that's okay. If your story's out there, then we can tell your life story, and that's really cool. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ask the universe. Love our creatures of this earth. They all have a purpose. They all are very gentle and sweet in their own way. And I will see you soon. Say bye, Perseus. See you next time. Just act like a tree.